Roll Tide! And welcome to Crimson Tide Rewind, live from Baumhower's Victory Grille in Vestavia Hills. Alongside our producer and engineer, Todd Robbins, and our former Crimson Tide quarterback, now color analyst, Tyler Watts. I'm Roger Hoover, and Tyler, Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Always nice to talk to you on a Monday night, especially when the Tide rolls in Athens.
I'll tell you what, it was a fun little road trip, wasn't it? And it's something that over the last, I guess, year or so, ever since the LSU game last season, that the road has not been friendly to Alabama. But all the progress they've made over the previous weeks, they were able to travel, load it up on the bus, unload it, and open up a can on the Georgia Bulldogs.
We certainly like that. 24-21 ends up being the final score. Crimson Tide are able to jump out in front 7-0. Once again, an opening drive touchdown for this Ryan Grubb offense.
Incredibly impressive, especially the length and the number of third down conversions they were able to convert throughout the entire first half. I mean, Ty Simpson, he has been playing really well, but to be able to go on the road and continue that without a hiccup was just unbelievable. How accurate in his anticipation of where his receivers were going to be and his knowledge of where the defense was trying to get to and what they were trying to take away. He was throwing in such tight windows. And initially, I was talking about it today with somebody. Initially, I thought, well, hey, we just had them so confused that's how the receivers were getting so open. No, he was throwing some dimes. I mean, he was dropping it in there, anticipating where they were going to be, putting it where it needed to be, and giving them an opportunity to advance it after the catch. But overall, just keeping that Georgia defense off balance. I mean, it was a masterpiece.
It certainly was for the Crimson Tide. And again, there were so many questions after week one, after Florida State started to get some answers against ULM and Wisconsin. How nice was it to see this kind of response against a quality opponent like
It's
Georgia?
great. And from the standpoint of, you're able to jump out 14-0. Georgia makes a little push, but then you respond right before halftime, driving the length of the field with 2 minutes to go. Not having any timeouts was, I think, the most impressive thing. And it was the screenplay, the big chunk plays through the air, and then getting down inside the red zone and then able to put it in the end zone right before half and to go up, 17-7 or 24-7 at that point, wasn't it? But then flipping the script in the defense, something that's kind of been a little bit of a struggle. Boy, when their backs were against the wall, they bowed up and got the stops in the second half. Yeah, Georgia moved the ball. They controlled the clock a little bit more than they did in the first half, but we got the stops when we needed them. Forced the punts, and then offense obviously able to run the clock out.
It was a fun night in Athens. 24-21 was the final score. We'll be talking about some of the defensive stops that Tyler mentioned coming up, as well as some of the great offensive plays and some of the new looks maybe we saw from the Crimson Tide offense all throughout this next hour as we come to you live from Baumhower's Victory Grille here in Vestavia Hills. We welcome your questions online at UA_CTSN on Twitter. Make sure you drop us questions, and we'll be answering them all throughout the show. But we're looking forward to rewinding Alabama's 24-21 win over Georgia from this past Saturday. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Three wideouts right, single setback is jammed to the left of Tide. Operating from the pistol, brings Jeremy in motion to the near side, leaving two to his right. Looking, firing, caught, touchdown! Jeremy Bedard on the slant, and Alabama gets on the board first.
Chris Stewart on the call. That touchdown that capped Alabama's first drive of the game. 14 plays, 74 yards, took 6.5 minutes off the clock. And with that, Crimson Tide went in front 7-0. And I love that he said, too, Jeremy went in motion. We saw Alabama with different motions, different blocking schemes. Ryan Grubb had a fun time on Saturday night with all the new wrinkles.
Look, and I thought that was important as well as the game started unfolding. And we saw several different gadget plays. Some of them had a false start on one of them, so it kind of got canned. But then, obviously, with the Caden Proctor reception later in the game, lining Jeremy Bernard up at tailback, putting Jan Miller at fullback position, there were all kind of different looks. So there was a relaxed feeling of don't really care where we are on the field. When we feel that it's appropriate time and that we got the right look to run a little gadget play, we're going to do it. And that kind of trickles down to your players of playing loose and understanding, hey, we're in attack mode tonight, and we aren't leaving anything in our repertoire. We're throwing everything plus a kitchen sink at these guys, and we're going to make something happen.
And how frustrating is that for the defense?
Well, you just have to play a little bit more base. Anytime you see something a little goofy, you get caught off guard, so what do? Well, you kind of get a little hesitant in reaction, and you're looking for something funny. and, different things can happen. That's when a lot of times you get hit right in the mouth as well, is because you're trying to find something goofy and you're not really focused on what it is you're doing.
And a quarterback like Ty Simpson was able to really take advantage of it. Again, what do you like about the timing and just the confidence he's playing with right now?
The biggest thing is his understanding and the processing that is taking place. I mean, you can tell he is putting in the work throughout the course of the week and his film study of knowing exactly what he's about to see and unfolding the defensive movements and having an answer for everything, knowing where the ball needs to go. So many times he's looking off receivers, linebackers, spy guys that are playing hole positions right there in the middle, and he is able to dissect that defense and just thread the needle. And it's all because of the timing and his understanding of what they're doing and knowing how to counter it.
And he did that a lot throughout the ball game, but especially on third down. Alabama ends up being 12 of 19 on third down in this ball game. Started, 8 for 8? How was Alabama so effective on third downs in this game?
Well, the biggest thing is they continue to try to run the football. And I know everybody's going to get frustrated with our lack of ability to run between the tackle. But, we talked about it on the broadcast a little bit. They're just body punches over and over, 2 and 3 yard gains up the middle. You're keeping them honest. And then there's so many looks that come off of that as well. So even though sometimes when you're in that zone, though, it doesn't matter if it's 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 11, you know that you have an answer because you have an understanding of what that defense is doing.
Great to see that for the Crimson Tide. Also great to see Jam Miller back healthy, back in uniform. 16 carries, 46 yards in this ballgame. What you like about number 26?
Tough yards, too. I mean, so much contact was made at the line of scrimmage. He was always falling forward. A lot of spinning, churning of the legs. He never gave up on any plays. He was fighting for every yardage. And what I liked most about it was all those 2 and 3 yard gains. We just talked about this. All those 2 and 3 yard gains throughout the first 3 quarters. When you had to have him on that last drive, he picked up 8 yards on first down. We convert. He picks up 7 yards on the first down the next play. So you're ahead of the chains, and all of a sudden all the pressure, and Kirby's sitting back there going, I got 3 in my pocket with timeouts. When do I use them? Well, I can't use them now because they gained so much on first down. We really kept the pressure on them throughout the entire 4 quarters. And although we didn't score in the second half, we were continually moving the ball, and they never felt comfortable. And that momentum really never shifted.
And that's good to see because, again, last year Georgia was able to make that big comeback in Tuscaloosa. There were some 3 and outs mixed in for the Crimson Tide offense, but, again, didn't see that when Alabama had to make sure they moved the chains this past week.
Yeah, and even with our backs against the wall down on about the 10-yard line coming out after a punt, we throw 3 incomplete passes. However, we're attacking, and we were a couple inches, maybe a missed pass interference call away from getting out of that jam as well and going on another drive.
So the Crimson Tide able to pick up the win 24-21 against Georgia this past Saturday. We'll continue talking about that. Want to remind you as well, keep up with everything Alabama with the Alabama Crimson Tide mobile app presented by Cadence Bank. It's available at the App Store and Google Play. Download the Alabama Crimson Tide mobile app now for free. You're listening to Crimson Tide Rewind, and this is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Simpson operating under center Brailsford. Play action, rolls the pocket right. Looking, firing, caught. Touchdown, Alabama. Isaiah Horton, wide open, back of the end zone. The second 6-yard touchdown pass of the night from Ty Simpson, and the Tide leads it 13-0.
Want to remind you, Tide fans, that J&J Apparel is your trusted source for Bama gear. New Alabama hats, T-shirts, and polos are arriving daily. Visit online at jnjapparel.net, or you can shop their retail store located at 1926 University Boulevard in downtown Tuscaloosa. RTR with J&J. Good to hear that Chris Stewart highlight of the Isaiah Horton touchdown catch. Tyler, he was the top receiver in this game. 5 catches, 65 yards, and that touchdown.
Especially early on. He had several 10-plus yard catches just dissecting that defensive unit, and had one off of his fingertips early on as well on a little deep over route that only a 6'4" frame would be able to haul in. So he is becoming much more an intricate part of this offensive unit, and now it's becoming a 4-headed monster when it comes to the talent they have in that wide receiver room. Obviously, everyone's going to focus on Ryan Williams and his big play capability, and then Jeremy Bernard, who, like we talked about, he caught a pass, he ran a pass, he threw a pass in this particular game. You can use him in so many different facets. Latsier Brooks was instrumental in a little screen route, took it down the sideline at a pivotal point right before halftime. And then, as we talked about with Isaiah Horton, that's 4 impressive receivers, playmakers. When you get the ball in space in their hands, they can make dynamic plays, and, man, they stress the defensive unit.
And how much comfort does that give you as a quarterback, knowing you have that many options against Ty connected with 8 different receivers in this game?
It's all about options. You can't take everything away. And, old school football was we're going to make you play one-handed. We're going to take something away and make you play with guys that you don't really feel comfortable with. You can't do that when you're spreading the ball equally every single week. And it's not just a one-off if somebody gets hot. No, the ball is spread equally because they're so creative in what they do offensively with the play calling and devising guys to be able to kind of be primary or secondary reads. And it just simplifies the game for Ty Simpson because, once again, he has an answer for everything.
Certainly does, and he got a lot of help up front. So let's talk a little bit about the Alabama offensive line. Definitely some new looks there as well this past week.
You talked about 7 or 8 receivers catching balls. I think we played 8 or 9 offensive linemen throughout the course of this week. And they were at pivotal points of the game where all of a sudden you see younger guys out there filling in. I saw Wilkin-Formey drop down to right guard at one point. That is this coaching staff's philosophy, though. If you've done the work, you've proven that we can trust you in practice, then you deserve the right to play in the ballgame. It's not a first team, second team thing where if the game's out of hand, then you get a chance to go in there just because you're younger. No, if we think that you can help us win and we trust you, you're going to get a shot to play when the game's on the line and go out there and prove it. And I think that does two things. Obviously, it keeps your guys engaged throughout the course of the week. It keeps them competing against one another because they all want to be the guy that's out there, and it keeps them around as well. They all have an opportunity to play and show what they can do.
And what do you like about Wilkin-Formey? You mentioned him sliding over to right guard. Michael Carroll, he and Wilkin have been rotating a bit at right tackle, but how about both of them on the field at the same time?
It was impressive, and it's the trust factor. That doesn't happen with a lot of coaching staff. A majority of coaching staffs are going to give those first-team guys 70% of the reps. Second-teamers get the 30%. So there's a huge discrepancy there with the volume of what they're seeing throughout the course of the week. But no, these guys are constantly rotating in, and, man, it's made a huge difference. We also saw William Sanders out there, Jackson Lloyd out there. Guys you really don't talk a whole lot about, but they're getting chances against Georgia on the road against the number 4 team to go out there and compete. And they kept Ty Simpson's jersey completely clean all night long.
Not just those guys, but the tight ends as well. It was great to see Danny Lewis back in the game, and then we got to call a lot of different names at tight ends that were really involved in Alabama's blocking scheme.
You had Edwards with a huge catch late or in the third quarter of that game. Josh Cuevas was instrumental in some of his catches, and he does a heck of a job. He's becoming a better blocker as well. Jay Lindsey was in on several occasions. So you're playing multiple players at every single position, and you're just rotating them through. And now in college football, because of the length of the season and the expansion of the playoffs, it is still a game of attrition. So as you have people dropping down, getting injured, we've seen this on the defensive side, you have enough bodies with experience that you can trust to go out there. You might not be quite as good, but you have able bodies with experience, and you're not starting from scratch. You're not trying to hide a player and just hope he doesn't get exposed.
A lot of that was really good to see this past Saturday in Alabama's 4th game of the season as the Crimson Tide get the win 24-21 over Georgia and improve to 3-1 on the year, and all-important 1-0 in SEC play. The next SEC game is coming up this Saturday. If you're coming to Tuscaloosa for the Vanderbilt game, make sure you join us at Vector Security Champions Lane. It is the best pregame fan fest in the country. Our live radio broadcast will get things started 3 hours before kickoff, followed by a free pregame concert featuring fan favorite Uncle Cracker. We will also have the largest outdoor LED screens in Tuscaloosa, meet and greets with Alabama student athletes, food trucks, and of course, ice cold beer and Legends Lounge, where there is never a covered charge. Visit championslane.com each week for more details. We continue looking back at the Georgia win. Look ahead to Vanderbilt as well. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Bernard and Miller in the backfield. Strong side right. Rolling. Looking. Simpson will run it himself, and he will walk in. Touchdown, Alabama.
Roll Tide to Ty Simpson, your SEC co-offensive player of the week after he accounted for 3 touchdowns against the University of Georgia. If you'd like to be a part of tonight's Crimson Tide Rewind show, submit your question to us on the Alabama Media Group Twitter line at UA_CTSN. Brought to you by AL.com, Alabama's largest news site with daily coverage of the Crimson Tide. Talked a lot about the offense so far against Georgia. How about the defense, especially Tyler, not allowing Georgia to get off to a good start? That was one of our keys to the game.
Forcing a 3 and out was huge. That crowd was amped. They were ready to go and have something to cheer about. They felt confident all day going into that ball game. You send your offense out there, and it's a 1-yard gain on run right between the tackles. We shut him down. Gunnar Stockton misses an open receiver on the edge, and then he scrambles or something or throws in almost an interception to Deontay Lawson. Now they're punting, and then we go on that 6-minute march. They didn't have an answer early on. They could not get in a rhythm. And then we had the ball, so they're sitting over on the sideline, and our defense is fresh and ready to go as well. So they played incredible. But like we talked about, in that second half, they were awesome. Gave up a couple of big plays, didn't keep containment. Much better job up front of run gap integrity, making sure you weren't really opening up huge holes. There was a couple times we had some breakdowns, and Georgia was able to take advantage of that. But I see improvement on that side. And that was important because of who we play this week. And that's what you wanted to see, though. So when things are starting to kind of unravel, how do you respond? How do you answer the bell? And in the fourth quarter, we held Georgia scoreless for the final 21 or 22 minutes of that ball game.
Really good to see. And we talked about Jam Miller coming back. How about Tim Keenan III making his return and anchoring that Crimson Tide defensive line?
I thought he did a great job up front, made a couple of tackles, got a pressure on the quarterback and a sack, I believe. But he was where he needed to be, and he wasn't allowing the center and guards to really work up to the second level, which was important. You want to keep those offensive linemen from being able to get downfield and get bodies. That way you can get in there and clog up the holes, because linebackers don't really know which way it's going. They got two responsibilities, and they have to be able to react. Can't have offensive linemen running interference for them. So Tim Keenan, having him, especially with the loss of Quay Russaw and James Smith in that game, you needed all bodies up there.
Yeah, really unfortunate news for Quay Russaw. Hope to get him back at some point this season after undergoing a foot surgery. And then for James Smith, again, it was a play where he's just trying to make a play. I know targeting gets debated about a lot. What did you see on that play?
Didn't like it, but I guess by the letter of the law, it was a good kidney shot. He was trying to go for the ball and just lowered his head. But, that's part of the game now, and you have to be disciplined and keeping your head up and understanding that and having that kind of body control. And people on the defensive side, it's happening so fast, but they have got to have body control, and it takes an athletic individual in order to be able to do that. And unfortunately, he just trying to make a football play, and it happened so quick that he lowered his head.
Lowered his head again. He'll miss the first half against Vanderbilt, but will be back coming up in the second half. We'll talk more about L.T. Overton's great play that he had in the ball game coming up as well. We're at Baumhower's Victory Grille tonight. It is your big game headquarters this fall, all throughout the 2025 football season. Baumhower's has been voted best wings in Alabama and the #1 sports-themed restaurant in the state. They are featuring their fan favorites this fall that include the Ragin' Cajun Gooey Fries, Go Fish, the Gooey Char-Grilled Chicken Sandwich, and their scratch-made Cabo Wabo Tequila Margaritas. All of you football fans, kick off your season in legendary fashion and make Baumhower's Victory Grille your big game headquarters all season long. We'll continue with more Crimson Tide Rewind next. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Bernard will go in motion left side as Simpson works under center. Gets the snap. They set up for a screen to the big fella, Proctor. Caden 5. Caden pushing forward, and Caden out of bounds. Dear Lord, at the 3. That was not an earthquake. That was Caden Proctor catching it left side and getting down to the 2-yard line. A 10-yard catch and rumble from the big fella.
And that's not just the play of the game. That's my favorite play of the year so far that Alabama's had, getting it out to Caden Proctor. If you'd like to join us on tonight's show, submit your question to us on the Alabama Media Group Twitter line at UA_CTSN. Brought to you by AL.com, Alabama's largest news site with daily coverage of the Crimson Tide. All right, let's go back to that play. First of all, when did you notice that number 74 was lined out that way?
I noticed him, but, he had lined up out on the edge earlier in the first quarter. And that was one of those gimmick plays that we had a false start with Jam Miller, so we didn't get to see what they were about to do with him. Just use him as a late lead blocker, maybe throw him out in the flat. I don't know. But you think about where you are. It is the 2-minute drill. You're inside the 10-yard line. You can't have a negative play. And to be able to call that and have the confidence that you can get everybody lined up correctly, that Georgia's not going to get tipped on it. You throw it out there and he catches it and then is able to rumble downfield looking like Refrigerator Perry. It was incredible. Kyron Jones, the safety for Georgia, wanted no part of taking him out. He kind of got up to him and almost went for his leg and then olayed him at the last second. And he would have scored had Jeremy Bernard not been blocking his tail off downfield and just kind of gotten his way.
It was fun to watch. Again, Caden Proctor, as you pointed out, I originally thought, oh, yeah, he's just a wide receiver. That's a catch for 11 yards. It's technically a rush for 11 yards.
It was a backward pass, and, you always want to make sure, and I'm not sure if that's a tackle eligibility thing where you have to report maybe if he's off the line.
Because he is number 74.
Yes.
Does that make a difference?
I have no idea about the rules.
I don't either.
What do you do around
I kind of
here?
rely on, I read the ads during the game. I rely on you for the football knowledge.
Heck of a play, though. Heck of a play. Takes a lot of guts to call it and execute it as well as they did. And that's what I was talking about, though. When you're willing to go out there and work on all these plays and put the time in and then actually run them in a game, man, you're getting the attention and the focus of your players because they know we're doing everything we can to win this ball game, and we're not going to play fearless.
And Alabama debuts it against Georgia. Could we see a similar look again, especially even if Ty doesn't necessarily go to Caden? He can go to the other side.
Good.
Somebody may be wide open. What do you think?
All kinds of different things and variations that you can come off that. But you want to save those things for big-time games because it is such an extraordinary thing. I don't think we're going to run it versus Eastern Illinois. But, yeah, you have that in your repertoire, and that's one more thing that teams have to prepare for potentially.
Certainly looked forward to seeing more of that from Caden Proctor, and not just a great game for him, having that very viral moment on that run that he had, but doesn't allow any quarterback pressures from his side of the line. Yeah. No sacks, and again, Georgia has made their program essentially with strong defensive linemen.
They just don't have the pass rushers that they have had in the past. They can't win with 4 men. They try to bring backers. The problem is they're coming from depth, and they have assignments prior to committing to the rush on the passing game. And the way that Ty Simpson was dissecting that defense and getting rid of the football, they had no chance to be able to alter his throwing. And even when they did get the wide rush, he stepped up strong in the pocket, 2 hands on the ball, knew where he was going to go in and delivered a strike to his receiver.
Certainly did. Again, part of a fun night for the Crimson Tide, 24-21. And that may have been the most fun moment we've seen. Ty Simpson connecting with Caden Proctor. Proctor carrying it for 11 yards and nearly scoring there for the Crimson Tide. We'll talk about more fun moments from our trip to Athens when we return. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Bama's had it 17 minutes in this first half. Georgia for just over 6 minutes. A 10-point Bama lead, but the Dogs trying to cut into it. Stockton being chased. He's going to be brought down. A sack for the Bama defense right around the 47-yard line. The first of the ball game for the Crimson Tide.
Great to see that for LT Overton. You're listening to Crimson Tide Rewind live from Baumhower's Victory Grille in Vestavia Hills. LT, quite a ball game. Of course, a Georgian native. He certainly played at a high level, especially that stop he had on 4th down that helped Alabama maintain the lead, and Georgia never got close to scoring again.
Yeah, and that particular sack is always kind of special when you're the guy coming off of the right edge, left edge of the offensive line. You apply the pressure, you force the quarterback to step up, and then Edric Hill pushed him right back into the arms of LT Overton. It was kind of a split sack. But both of those guys closing that running lane that had opened up as a result of his speed rush. Once again, to have the body control to be able to stop, pivot back, and get on the legs of Gunnar Stockton. Gunnar Stockton's a good little quarterback. He's mobile. He's tough to bring down. We've seen that on film leading up to this ball game. So he made an incredible play on that one. And then the 4th down, they try to go tempo. They're trying to catch us off guard. They think they have the edge, and quite honestly, they did have the edge. Keon Sabb is about 4 or 5 yards off the ball. He would have been in a one-on-one situation with the Cash kid in order to bring him down and prevent the touchdown. But it wasn't necessary. LT shot the gap, bounced off of the guard, and was able to beat that tackle back out to the edge and get just enough of his legs to bring him down. And everybody's talking about it now in Georgia. We should have kicked the field goal. Yeah, you should have kicked the field goal. And I think moving forward, other coaches will go the same thing because we stopped them on the previous 4th down also. But I think because of pass interference, they had a retrial on that earlier in the game. So you got to take points when you can against this defense, and that's something that we didn't always say last year. So hopefully they're turning the corner and continuing to grow and making it awfully difficult. You might be able to move the ball on us. If we get inside that 20-yard line, we're going to become stubborn.
Yeah, Kirby Smart said in his postgame press conference that was all about sequencing. What they did on 3rd down kind of dictated, yeah, we still would go for it on 4th and 1. But as you mentioned, there's still 12 minutes to go in the ball game. You tie it up right there, you're at least guaranteed a tie game at the moment.
Right, but there's two things of that. It's, boy, we sure haven't stopped Ty Simpson all night long. And if we don't get the lead right now, we're going to be just playing catch-up if they score again, and we're never going to be able to close that gap. I think that had a lot to do with it. When you don't lead at all during the course of the game, regardless of the fact that you've held Alabama out of the end zone the entire second half, it just changes your mindset of thinking when we have an opportunity to strike, we have to show our cards, and we got to go for it now.
So the Crimson Tide are able to make that stop and maintain the lead, win 24-21. Again, the execution in those final 2.5 minutes, you had to love that from the
Let's
offense.
back up. So we get the fourth down stop, but you're still inside the 5-yard line. Offensively, you have to be able to get it out of there. And once again, a couple of really nice plays, getting ahead of the chains, converting third down opportunities, getting it out to around the 40 or 30 or 40 before you're forced to punt, maybe even cross midfield. Now you're forcing them to drive the length of the field again, and they just didn't have an opportunity to do that.
It was great to see. Again, great for the Crimson Tide. Celebrating a win on the road, 24-21, and we've talked all about it on not only this show, but in our pregame coverage as well. For Alabama to play well on the road under this coaching staff, how meaningful is it?
It was huge. They carried their game away from Bryant-Denny Stadium. They were locked in, focused, executed flawlessly, no turnovers. Forced a turnover, turnover on downs. And I can't believe we've gone 41 minutes in this show. We hadn't talked about Bray Hubbard yet, who continues to play. He's like your MVP on the defensive side. What he's able to do in clogging up the throwing lanes, he got his hands on probably at least 2 different passes that if he was just a little bit taller, a little bit longer arms, they come down as interceptions, but he affects the throw all the time. And then his ability to come up, set the edge, prevent running backs from being able to bounce it to the outside. He tackles low, fills a hole early in the second quarter against a really good running back in Nate Frazier, upends him and knocks the ball loose where Deontay Lawson drops on it. I mean, he's your energetic guy on the defensive side that is just all over the field making plays. And I guarantee you, we talk about, what defensive coordinators, the fear that they have in this offensive unit. Offensive coordinators, they're going to want to know where number 18 is because he plays in so many different levels, and Nick Womack is able to utilize him in different areas. Kane Womack, I'm sorry, and really apply pressure. He's a unique player that you love to have in your toolbox.
Could he have a larger role now that especially Quay Russel's out?
Potentially. You look for him to maybe be mixed up more around the line of scrimmage, especially this week, depending on how threatened we feel by their wide receivers, because we know with Vanderbilt's offense, they have so much eye candy, similar to Florida State, that you need somebody coming in. He'll probably come from depth a lot and have containment once again or filling holes up the middle, but he's definitely going to be playing inside the box a lot this week versus Vanderbilt.
So the Crimson Tide get that notable win against Georgia, move up from number 17 to number 10 in the polls. Taking a look at around the rest of the SEC this past week, what stood out to you? We saw Ole Miss pick up a win against LSU. Auburn falling to 0-2 in the league after they lost on the road at Texas A&M. Tennessee, a scare against Mississippi State, but a win in overtime in Starkville. And then Mizzou winning big over UMass. It was Notre Dame winning big at Arkansas. We saw changes there already for the Razorbacks. And then it was South Carolina picking up a win at home against Kentucky.
The parity continues. When you have Mississippi State elevate their game to what they have versus Tennessee, their defense is so much better than it has been in the past. LSU on both sides of the ball. They ran the football against LSU. LSU's got real problems. LSU and Auburn both have real problems as far as either wanting to run the football, staying committed to it, and there's just ability to run the football. They lack it right now, and it makes them one-dimensional, and they're easier to figure out and really hem in. So I think there's more parity in the conference right now as the bottom continues to rise, and every game is now like the NFL where you're beatable.
Certainly are, and the matchups coming up this weekend. Georgia is back at home. They'll be hosting Kentucky at 11 a.m. Texas, it'll be their first SEC game, finally going on the road against Florida. And then later on, Mississippi State, Texas A&M. That's an intriguing one in College Station.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you got some good games once again. I loved how there's so many competitive games last week, and we're in the heart of the season now where you're going to get 3 or 4 meaningful games that are going to come down to the wire, and it's an exciting time to be in this conference.
And for the Crimson Tide, once again, having to go up against an undefeated team, the Vanderbilt Commodores. We will talk more about them when we return as you listen to Crimson Tide Rewind, live from Baumhower's Victory Grille in Vestavia Hills. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Don't stop planning for your future. Don't stop investing in your kids' education. Don't stop dreaming of that new home. And don't stop growing your business. Whatever you're passionate or dreaming about, don't stop. Because when you have a bank you can trust, you have the confidence to take on tomorrow. Speak with a Trustmark associate today for advice on achieving your goals. Trustmark. People you trust. Advice that works. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
They've got 3 men wide left. They'll hand it off. They'll try to get to the edge. And he's down. He's down at the 13-yard line. LT Overton with the stop. Bama forces a loss, and it's a takeaway on downs by the Bama D.
Hey, you missed it. Our Booth Cam highlights presented by Regions Bank, available to watch on all CTSN social media platforms at UA_CTSN. I need to go back and look. Did you throw another headset when LT had that stop?
No, I got a stern talking to last year versus Georgia, so I've kind of calmed down a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, none of us were calm a year ago in Nashville, unfortunately, when Alabama took on the Vanderbilt Commodores, and here we are again. A huge emotional win against Georgia, and now Vandy's right after that.
Feels completely different, though, because last year you're coming off an emotional win where you're really having to hold on, and we didn't finish that game strong, and we probably thought we were a little better than we actually were. As soon as these guys walked off the field, it was attention Vanderbilt. They are focused on this game right now, and they're going to be locked in, ready to go. And it's going to be important, especially on the defensive side, because we struggled so much with them of being able to get off of the field. This is a Vanderbilt offense that prides itself. They're big up front. They love to run the football, but it's not a traditional I formation. A lot of movement, a lot of trickery that goes on between the tackles, and Diego Pavia does a really nice job behind the ball, so you never really know where it's going to be. So it's not about you as a defender watching and trying to make a play. It's about you doing your job, running your assignment to the best that you possibly can, and just winning your box. Christian Miller used to always talk about win your box and let everybody else worry about winning their own box. It's going to be incredibly important, though, the fact that you don't have James Smith for the first half of this ball game. For younger guys, Kelby Collins, Jordan Renard, who stepped up and did a really nice job, Isaiah Faga, these guys have got to step in and fill that hole, that role that James Smith and Jamarian Latham and Q Rosal kind of held throughout the course leading up to this point. They have got to play good up front, set the edge, not allow that offensive line to be able to spread you out sideline to sideline and creating large holes. Alabama has to win on first and second down. You force this Vandy in third and long, that's not where they want to live. And we caught him on a red-hot moment last year where he was like Ty Simpson last week versus Georgia, could not miss. He ain't going to have that type of game, though, I hope, again. You got to force him in third and long and find a way to get off the field.
Yeah, Vandy running the ball extremely well, averaging 223 yards on the ground. That's second best in the SEC so far this year. Now, their schedule, they've gone on the road and won at Virginia Tech, but their probably most notable win went on the road to South Carolina, posted a dominant victory against the Gamecocks.
Owned South Carolina. And that was the South Carolina defense last season. That was one of the better ones in the conference, and they went up and down the field. And anytime the game got a little bit tight, they just didn't care. They just went right back down and scored. They're better than they were last year. They really are. And I think when these players and coaches put this game film on, you're not going to have anybody taking them lightly. They understand what this offense is capable of doing, the limited number of possessions you're probably going to have offensively. So you can't afford turnovers, and you have to strike when you get an opportunity. And when you get touchdown opportunities, you got to catch the ball, you got to take advantage of it, and you got to put points up.
And how refreshing is it that this Alabama team, again, turnovers really hurt against Vandy last year, but so far this group, knock on wood.
Don't say so far. What are you doing, man?
Well, Ty Simpson has really taken care of the football well. How about that?
He has done a nice job, and he will continue to process and understand what the defense is doing. We're more dynamic on the edge and the perimeters than we were a year ago as well. So offensively, I'm not concerned. We're going to put points up on the board. We're going to find ways to score, and we just got to keep the pressure on them to constantly have to answer.
And again, it's a talented running style from Diego Pavia. He is their leading rusher so far this season. Is it pretty similar to what Tommy Castellanos tried to do against Alabama week one?
There are some similarities. He's not near as dynamic. He's not near as fast or quick in the pocket, but he still has a knack for making guys miss. But his game is not breaking you down and running it for 40 yards. It's getting 5 or 6 yards and putting them in 2nd and 4, and then they can do it again. And then on third down, when it's 3rd and 6, he pulls it down, makes one guy miss in the open field, gets a first down. just keeps the chains going, which is why it's important. If you're able to get a lead, make it a 2-score lead, make it a 3-score lead, because now they can't play ball control, keep away football. They have to ramp up their offense, and that's not the style that they want to play.
Another difference from last year, this game is at home.
Well, it kind of was last year with as many Alabama fans were in Nashville. The difference is, though, this year, Bryant-Denny Stadium will be rocking for this game.
It certainly will be. So we need the fans loud and ready to go for Alabama against Vanderbilt coming up on Saturday. We'll have some final thoughts on that when we return. You're listening to Crimson Tide Rewind live from Baumhower's Victory Grille in Vestavia Hills. This is the Crimson Tide Sports Network from Learfield.
Another snap, another knee, and Kalen DeBoer and his squad will head to the other sideline to shake hands. They say every dog has its day, but for the 10th time in 11 meetings, it ain't going to be this one as Alabama beats Georgia again, 24-21.
Final call from Chris Stewart as Alabama picked up the 24-21 win against the Georgia Bulldogs on Saturday night. And again, that final call had all the emotion that all of us Alabama fans were feeling. Great to win, especially in Athens.
You got to love it. And that's one of the better football teams. And this, I can't escape thinking about this. We played flawlessly offense, moved the ball up and down the field. Defense did their job of keeping Georgia out of the end zone. Throughout the late third quarter and all of the fourth quarter, and you still only won by 3. And early on, the way we were clicking, man, it looked like we were going to score a ton of points. That's a really good Georgia football team. They don't give up. They don't care how far they're down. They're just going to keep plucking. They're going to keep fighting to try to find a way to get back into the game. So that was a huge quality win for Alabama on the road.
And who knows, could see them again.
You very well could.
I mean, they made it to the SEC Championship, won that a year ago, even after losing to Alabama early on in the season. And for the Crimson Tide, now you just got to keep this momentum going. And, again, you like the approach you saw, especially when you got to go in the locker room post.
Yeah, I think that this is a focused football team that understands if they don't prepare, if they don't take this serious, if they don't get ready to play, then they can get beat. And there is nothing wrong with that. Having that fear is a good thing. Sometimes, but you still have to play loose, and I think that that's where the head coach's personality really helps out, because you're able to be intense but not be tense, and that is so important in athletics. You got younger guys, everybody's contributing. It's not a bunch of players sitting on the sideline watching other people play. The participation chart is just unreal on this Alabama roster. Everyone contributes to the greater good of winning, and they understand the mulligan has been used up. They have to play well every single week, and they're seeing what's going on around the country. And they know that they can beat anybody, but also they can be very human if they don't prepare themselves.
Now we're getting into October. This is the first of 4 games in a row coming up. Well, Georgia was the first in 5 in a row coming up before the open day before LSU. So, again, this is when we're really going to learn a lot about this football team.
It's just about this week. You worry about next week. It's about preparing for Vanderbilt. You have something that you owe them. You felt a horrible taste in your mouth leaving that field because you had opportunities to win it. And the way that they stormed the field, the things that they said afterwards, it's about proving everybody wrong and that you're a better football team than that and that you can dominate a really good opponent in Vanderbilt.
Well, Tyler, we look forward to what's coming up on Saturday for Alabama against Vanderbilt, and also all the best to Homewood moving forward.
Appreciate it, Roger. Roll Tide, everybody.
That was too. I used to live in Mountain Brook, but I don't really claim an allegiance to their high school or anything like that. He's not going to say another word the rest of the night.
We'll have another shot. We'll have another shot at him.
There you go. Go Patriots. So what's on tap next for Bama? Again, brought to you by Coors Light. Crimson Tide fans choose to chill with ice cold Coors Light. Next up is Alabama against Vanderbilt coming up on Saturday. That's going to do it for Crimson Tide Rewind, again live from Baumhower's Victory Grille here in Vestavia Hills. If you missed any portion of tonight's show, you can always catch it on demand on the Alabama Insider Podcast. You can download, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Special thanks back to Mason Sapp back at our Learfield studios, especially our engineer Todd Robbins, former Crimson Tide quarterback Tyler Watts, and I'm Roger Hoover saying thank you again for listening and roll Tide.